Raising the Conversation, a podcast by the MacRae Centre for Faith and Culture at Acadia Divinity College, with your host Joel Murphy, facilitator of trend research and analysis here at the MacRae Centre.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Raising the Conversation podcast. This season, what we're hoping to look at and engage with is leaders from across Canada and outside of Canada to be able to look at why thinking about the future matters and how they are doing that and the relevance of that in their space. And so today I am really excited to be joined by Jennifer Lau. Jennifer is the Executive Director of Canadian Baptist Ministries, CBM, which is Canada's oldest Baptist mission agency, serving and representing mission concerns more than 930 Canadian Baptist churches. It's big. She's been with CBM since 2002. And has stepped into her role as Executive Director in 2020. Jennifer holds a Bachelor of Arts from University of Toronto, a Master of Arts in Theology from Princeton Seminary, and this year was conferred as an Honorary Doctorate of Business degree from Crandall University. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jennifer travels across Canada and to many countries around the world, seeking to connect Canadians to people, to the work that CBM does. Her passion is to help people situate their own faith journeys within the global community and encourage them to faithfully follow Jesus in the world. And she's joining us from, I think, CBM head office in Mississauga, Ontario. Is that right? Awesome. Well,
beautiful sunny day here.
It's snowy here, but
it's cold. But
yeah.
It's sunny.
Well, I'm really grateful, Jennifer, that you're able to have this conversation with me and share some of your insights. And so maybe we'll just hop into the first question. Why do you think it's important for Christian leaders today to pay attention to the future? And how has that shaped your own leadership or imagination? I know we've had conversations about this in the past.
Yeah. Well, yeah, starting with the easy ones. Yeah. Oh, it's, leadership is such a tricky thing, I think, regardless of what organization you're working for or who you're trying to lead. And I always kind of remember that, part of the job, an important part of a job of a leader is to name reality. And the future is a looming reality for all of us. There's no escaping that reality. And often it's the part of our realities that we least like to talk about because it's unknown and often requires a leader to be a prophet. So people often think like, oh, you're a leader, you must have this vision for the future that your average leader doesn't have any more insight into the future than anybody else does. They might have some, experience, intelligence, and maybe, intuitive sense of where things are going, maybe a little bit more so than some people. But, on average, I wouldn't say I know anything more about the future than anybody else does. But I do think it is important part of my job to be able to name that the future is something we have to address. That is something we have to put intentionality around thinking through, and maybe do a little bit of, dreaming and thinking about what the future could be and how our reality of the present is going to intersect with that. So I think for me, like, it just feels like, you can't really be an effective leader if you aren't going to talk about the future.
That's all. Yeah, I profoundly agree. Yeah. So when you think about obviously within your role as a leader, that's something that you have to be cognizant of and paying attention to. How does your faith or scripture or theological perspective frame how you approach the future, whether from like a strategic perspective or just as a person of faith?
I think the future is terrifying for most people, and I think the thing that hopefully grounds us when we have conversations about the future as people of faith is that it is accompanied by hope. As I think if we don't have that, it seems like we are doomed. It seems as though we have lost all control. These are often some of the narratives you hear when we see things that are happening in the future, or there's projections as to where things are going into the future. And so that sense of a loss of control, or even an inability to understand what is happening or what will happen on a cognitive level, is just very, it's scary. Like, it's just really scary for most people, right, when we think about that. And so I think as a person of faith, it just having a sense of hope that, well, first of all, that God is in control. I think that is the greatest reassurance that we always have around anything that we don't understand, that God is in control. I think that helps to ground, any kind of fears that we may have. It doesn't eliminate the fears, but it helps to ground us in understanding that it's not all up to me to make sense of it, that often it will be beyond my comprehension. And a lot of us, it's hard. This is kind of the mystery part of God that a lot of us struggle with, right? People particularly who are cerebral, lean more on the cerebral side of faith, or I have to understand everything side, have difficulty understanding the mystery part of God, or accepting the mystery part of God, as there are just things that are unknown to us, or that are beyond our comprehension. And so, I think for me, I always think about, the future. To me, I always think about the kingdom of God is at hand. It is the now and the not yet. It is near. It is not yet. We're still in that that tension of in between. And so for me, that's that helps me to quell my own anxiety over what the future will be, by thinking that what we really need to do is just embrace that the kingdom of God is still to be fully realized, right? It is still to come. We don't know what that's going to look like fully. We may not fully understand it, but it is just on the threshold.
I love that. I think that's profound. And that even with that realization, it doesn't mean that we're not active, right? That we're not
exactly
moving and considering and thinking and discerning how then we respond. Even in this time of waiting, we are still called to act.
Yeah. I love the translation at hand, because I think of it as there's something physical about that too, that involves us, right? It's it's physically it's right present near our hand, right? We have to actually embrace that with our hand. And so I love that translation. I know there's other translations it's near, or is present, or there's other ways that it's translated, but I really like the kind of physicality of saying it is at hand, because it requires us to do something with it. It requires us to grasp it.
Yeah.
So I do really like that. Yeah.
Right. I love that. Yeah, because because often when we think about the future, we can think about it's this ethereal thing that's far off, and it's out there, which is true. It's unknown and it's emerging, but it also, I think when coming from it from a research perspective, or from a futurist perspective, we can also imagine, and which gives it a little bit more location, or we can think about what is the future of my town, or my congregation, or my city, or my people, and be able to then imagine. That gives it a little bit more substance, versus this kind of thing that's out there, recognizing that we can't fully predict it, but that is at hand. I like that.
Yes, it's also an embodied experience, not just it's not just theoretical, high level thinking. It's also very present in our daily life, and the things that we do. Yeah.
Oh, I really like that. Can you share a moment, so just we're hoping to offer some practical pieces to people as well, in terms of how people are engaging or experiencing futures thinking, or thinking about the future. So could you share about a time when a practice or an experience that you had when thinking about the future, and how potentially it helped you see something new, or helped you move towards maybe a intentional strategic step?
Okay. I remember So this is kind of interesting. I hope I'm allowed to share this. You guys might have to cut this out if Anna comes. You weren't supposed to tell anybody about that. So she showed me this demo that was done about using her avatar to potentially deliver theological education in different languages using AI. It was the weirdest, freakiest thing because I knew it looked like Anna, but it wasn't Anna, right? But as after I got over the shock of seeing that, and that was a little while back now.
Anna Robbins being the president.
Yes, Anna Robbins. Yes, the one and only Anna Robbins. It just blew my mind because when I was thinking about it, I just thought, how many years? Like I've been at CPM for such a long time, and one of the things we've always talked about here is access to theological education. The lack of access for so many people, so many pastors around the world lack access to theological education in their own language. And I just thought how brilliant it is to be able to utilize future technologies to be able to bridge that gap. And it just absolutely would revolutionize how we are training leaders for the global church. And so for me, that was just one of the ways that it kind of like all the kind of theoretical things we think about like the future became real for me, because all of a sudden it helped to eliminate a huge issue that currently exists, right? And it's like, just like that, that would no longer be a problem. And so that for me was really, I think it was a mind-blowing moment, because I just thought that's like, for me, it just became practical, like kind of what we just talked about. Like it wasn't just this kind of high level thing, but it suddenly was something that had been taken down from high level to be made real and really could have potential to be absolutely transformative for people and for communities and for the church. And so, I kind of always look back on that experience as kind of like my gateway into really thinking about futuring and like what could happen in the future if we embrace what we see some of the possibilities can be in very practical ways.
Love that. Yeah, I love that. I think that's a great example. And doing so with that like intentional, like how can relate to technology, like how can we use technology well and intentionally to further our mission, and not just for the sake of technology and change and all, but like intentionally help it to support the work that we're doing, I think is
exactly
powerful.
Yeah, and I love that it's in the faith space, because I mean corporations certainly have no hesitation to be using all of these things, right, for their gain.
Yes.
And I think for us, like, why do we think that, there's usually a kind of reaction of like, oh, no, we need to, this is evil, or this is like, right. There's a lot of that there's a lot of rhetoric out there, I think, from certain circles, evangelical circles around like, oh, this is evil. We need to reject all of this. But to be able to see that these things in themselves don't necessarily have a good or a bad, it's how we utilize them. Right. And to be able to see, wow, we could actually use these things to further the gospel. We can use this to further the work of the church. And so to be able to inject, I think, a positivity upon what could be, rather than always reacting with the negative, defaulting to the negative every time when there's something we don't quite understand.
I love that. Yes. Talk about that a lot, actually. I think that's a really insightful piece. Anyways, as we kind of conclude and we come to, I really appreciate, I think there's some really important insights that you've shared with us. When you think about the future, what gives you hope? Is kind of how we're hoping to conclude these pieces. And so you kind of already alluded to it already in terms of who Jesus is. But what encouragement, what encouragement would you offer leaders who maybe feel uncertain about what lies ahead, and how, because you've already used the word hope, like how can you, what would you offer us as we kind of wrap up our time together?
I think one of the things that I always think about is we're not here to protect old structures. Like that's not the role of a leader. We're here. So like, CBM is a really old organization, as you mentioned, and part of our job is to help honor that legacy for sure, to honor what has been before us. But it's also to, I think, to really lean into what will be. And I think it's so important for us as leaders to not get caught up with always just trying to like keep filling old wineskins. Right. And so at some point, we need to accept those old wineskins no longer serve the future. And, it sounds, it's a hurtful idea for some people to hear that. But we have to recognize that, God constantly is at work transforming the world. And that includes structures that were from the past that no longer serve our new realities. And so I think choosing a faithfulness over preservation maybe might be something that we're all challenged to do, is to we want to preserve the truth. So the truth of what the gospel is, we need to preserve that. We have to do everything to preserve that truth. But that truth often gets wrapped up in all kinds of other things like traditions, structures, and things that reflect a different time. And our job is not necessarily to protect and to continue all of those things, but to just continue protecting the truth in whatever form will be most effective for the future. And it may not look like what it looks like right now. And that's coming from a denominational person. So,
I appreciate it. I appreciate
it. But hear me clearly for those who are freaking out, to honor what has been. Yes. That's the first intention, is to honor what has been, but to really embrace what will be.
Yes. I think that's awesome. I think it frames the idea of recognizing that we are the past and honoring the past, but then recognizing how God is continuing to call us towards the kingdom, which is at hand, but also in the future. And we are in this space. And then how are we responding? And do we just hold on to these things, or can we, doesn't mean that everything from the past we let go of and that we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It's being intentional about what are the values, the principles, the mission that has consistency throughout all change, but the way in which we engage with it is the message isn't changing. It's maybe the way that we've delivered the message that needs to change, or the way that we're The other thing I'm, just sorry, I don't know what time is like, but the other thing is just kind of the shifts in global population. So around, how many people under the age of 30 there are globally is a staggering number. And I just see that as an opportunity. Like, I think of how this kind of now generation is going to absolutely revolutionize, I think, how we even think about church, how we think about faith communities, how we think about sharing the gospel in different ways. I just think they're forcing us to catch up with what they're already doing. And so I really love the idea that like God is really bringing forward, I think, a new generation to help us. It's forcing us to deal with just new ideas, a freshness, a fresh perspective, and embracing of the future in ways that maybe some of us who are older have more reluctance to do, because that pace of change for them has always been this fast. Whereas for some of us, we're just trying to catch up, right? We grew up in a different pace of change. And so for us, this feels like we can't possibly learn as quickly as this current pace of change. But for those that's always been their reality, they've never known anything different. They embrace it in a very different way. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, like I notice even in my kids, like for me, it's frustrating to have a new app or a new, oh no, now everybody's onto this platform. Everybody's moved away from this platform. It's frustrating because it's like, oh, I've just learned how to do this. Now I can move on to this other thing. My kids are like, if they had a new app every day, it wouldn't bother them.
Huh.
Like that's
Yeah.
just what they've always known.
Right.
Right. And so that kind of reluctance to learn new things. I mean, I get it in myself. I see it, people of my generation and maybe even older. It's just we're not used to it. We are adult learners,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Whereas this has been from birth for this younger generation, and so I think they're forcing us to stretch our brains a bit.
Hmm.
I think in good ways.
I love it. That's
Mm.
really interesting. Yeah. Well, I thank you. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for the work that you do and your commitment to it. And I think that there's a lot of
Yeah.
really important nuggets and perspectives that you were able to share, and even the perspective of identifying the global trends that we're seeing and the changes that we're seeing, and then how can we respond to that as a church in Canada, I think is really, really lovely. So thank you for your time and your wisdom.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.